the Chiefs are 2021 AFC West champions, and now they have done it 6 years in a row. We are here to discuss the Chiefs versus Pittsburgh Steelers Week 16 matchup, and the Chiefs just basically dominated this game from the start. The Chiefs won 36-10, and this game was not close whatsoever. The Steelers never felt like they had a chance that they were in this game. It felt like domination from the absolute beginning, and the Chiefs, just as a whole, looked great in this game. The offense looked great, special teams looked great, defense looked great. Like, all three phases looked good. Everything. The special teams, the biggest hiccup that the special teams had was we had a backup kicker in there because Harrison Buckner couldn't play. How much are you gonna fault that? They missed some kicks. Fine, I get that. Elliott Fry, he gets a pass. He really wasn't he wasn't going to be on this team to begin with, but Buckner was out with COVID, and now he had to replace him, and he did his job. He made a few field goals, hit a few extra points. I think he missed an extra point or a field goal. I think it is what it is. The Chiefs played fine on special teams. They had a backup kicker, but this game, just as a whole, was just pure domination. That it almost feels like there's nothing to really talk about from this game. Like, it really doesn't, because just as a whole, the Chiefs offense looked great in this game. Again, like I said, the defense looked great. They forced 3 turnovers, so it's like, well, what do you talk about in this game? They're AFC West champions again for the 6th straight year. This team went from 3-4 to they were last place in their division at one point. They climbed out of that hole just a few weeks later. Now they're on an 8-game winning streak. This team went from broken to the offense is still broken, but the Chiefs are winning still. They're not winning by enough points. To they're only beating the Raiders. To Mahomes isn't being flashy enough. To what else do you want from them now? They beat the Chargers last week, an opponent that always plays the Chiefs tough. The Raiders always played the Chiefs tough in the past. It's just the Chiefs had their number this year. And as a whole, this Chiefs team, ever since that Titans loss, literally cannot be stopped. It doesn't matter what teams do. The Chiefs cannot be stopped right now. They can't. Because they were slow coming out of that loss to the Titans. They didn't look particularly well. In the Giants game, they only put up 20 points, but the defense was great. The Packers game, okay, Aaron Rodgers didn't play. They only gave up 7 points, and they only scored 13. Fine, I can understand where it was. But then they just kind of went rolling. They scored 41 against the Raiders, only gave up 14. Then they played the Cowboys. The offense in the first half looked fairly good, and then they only gave up 9 points. And then the Broncos game, they scored 22 points and only gave up 9. And then they played the Raiders again, scored 48 and only gave up 9. They played the Chargers in a very fun, entertaining game that was really close. 2 really good quarterbacks in Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. They won that one 34-28, and then they come back in a game and they beat the Steelers 36-10. So they're not. What do the Chiefs have to do at this point to get the media's approval, the mainstream media's approval? At the same time, I don't care that they just need talking points. That's all it is. That's literally all it is. Because I think if everybody just admitted that the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL, I think it's close between them and the Packers. But just the Packers defense alone, I think, is what's holding them back from being considered, in my eyes, the best team in the NFL. They played the last 2 weeks really, really close. They played it close against the Ravens, and then they played it close against the Browns when they had those 2 well in hand, and then they couldn't do anything in the second half. So just as a whole, I think the Chiefs right now, as we're talking, are the best team in the NFL. No disrespect to the Packers, because I think if the Chiefs ended up playing them in the Super Bowl, because I think that's the only time that they would play them, I think it would be a fun, tough matchup. But as of right now, I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. So if we're looking at this game, if we start with the offense and the way they played, Patrick Mahomes was really good in this game. 23 of 30, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the Chiefs offense didn't have Travis Kelce. And from the other player stats, like if you look at Tyreek Hill's stat line, he had 2 catches for 19 yards. You would think, oh, there was something wrong with this offense. No, there was absolutely nothing wrong with this offense whatsoever in this game. Mahomes was spreading the ball around. They spread the ball around well in this game. They ran the ball fairly well in this game. So it wasn't just a one-man show. Travis Kelce was out, and everybody stepped up. Byron Pringle especially stepped up. 7 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. Derek Gore had 3 catches himself out of the backfield, 61 yards. McCall Hardman had a very solid game. 3 touchdowns, 31 yards, and a touchdown. Darrell Williams out of the backfield, 3 catches, 30 yards. You had Tyreek Hill, like I said, 2 for 19. Demarcus Robinson, 2 for 15. Noah Gray, 2 for 12. Blake Bell, 1 for 11. Clyde, 1 for 4. Like, Mahomes completed passes to 9 different receivers in this game. 9 different receivers. It wasn't just a one-man show. You look at one person's stat line, you're like, oh, they didn't have a good game. No, everybody on this offense had a good game. And the running game was really good in this game. I think it was fairly solid. The Chiefs as a team as a whole ran for 127 yards total. Like that's really good for the Chiefs sometimes, because they feel like they get away from the run game a lot. And you have Darrell Williams, who I like Clyde. I like Clyde a lot, and I think he did get injured in this game, so he might be out for a couple weeks or the season, depending on what things go. But I think Darrell and Clyde, and I don't want anything against Clyde, I think just as a pure open field runner, I think Darrell Williams is better. He had 11 carries for 55 yards and averaged 5 yards per carry. Now, that's taking nothing away from Clyde whatsoever, because he had 9 carries, 27 yards, but that touchdown that he had early on in this game was just an absolute grown man run. Like, he was stuffed in the backfield by 2 or 3 guys, and he just slipped out of it. So Clyde, I think, is a great piece for this Chiefs offense, because it's not just, oh, he's not getting open field runs. No, he plays inside the 5. I think Clyde is a very, very hard person to stop. I think he is a weapon inside the 5. He is such a strong runner. He likes to run right downhill. I just feel like in the open field, Darrell is a little bit better of a open field runner. So I think if they use Darrell as like the open field runner and Clyde as like the red zone inside the 5, I think that's a great matchup, because anytime Clyde gets into the 5 and he gets the ball, it just feels like almost every time a guaranteed touchdown. Like, he's been great inside the 5 this year. And so I think Clyde is definitely valuable on this team. I'm not saying get rid of him whatsoever. I'm just saying inside the 5, I think Clyde is an absolute monster. And then you had Derek Gore, who just completely showed up. And when he has played, he's played great. And I'm so glad the Chiefs kept him on the roster after the preseason, because he has shown out. He only had 12 carries, 43 yards, but he can run the football, and he can run the football very, very well. So when Clyde's out, you have Darrell Williams and Derek Gore, who can hold down the fort and run the ball very well while Clyde's out. And I think the run game, for the little that the Chiefs do, I think the Chiefs running game will be just fine, just because they run it very little. But I think just as a whole, for the little they do run it, they have enough pieces, they have enough guys there to do it. And then if you look at the defense in this game, all-around defensive performance, like, who do you give the MVP to? You had Charvarius Ward, who had an interception. You had Willie Gay, who's all over the place. Anthony Hitchen played well. L'Jarius Sneed is becoming a lockdown corner in the NFL. Tyrann Mathieu, what else do we have to say? It's Tyrann Mathieu. Frank Clark showed up. Heck, at the end of the game, the defense was just bullying the Steelers, and the Steelers were trying to run a fake reverse, and they failed, and Big Ben fumbled, and the Chiefs got the football late in the game when it was already over. And I'm just like, man, this defense bullied the offensive line of the Steelers a lot during this game. And I think the defense as a whole played well, and all I have to do is say thank you to the Steelers for giving us Melvin Ingram for some reason, because you had nowhere to use him, which makes no sense, because that dude is an absolute monster when it comes to stopping the run. So Melvin Ingram coming to the Chiefs was the biggest pickup for the Chiefs, because ever since he's came, he has literally changed the way that this defense has played. So because of him, and because of the Steelers, the Chiefs defense has literally been the number 1 defense in football this year. Like, the Chiefs defense is the best defense that the Chiefs have had since Patrick Mahomes became the full-time starter of the Chiefs. 2018 they were bad. 2019 they were so-so. They were there to get the job done, because the offense could do as much as they wanted. Last year, I would say it was about comparable to 2019, but this year they are just locking people down. They're not giving up points. The most they've given up is 28, and that was a divisional matchup on a short week, with the Chiefs completely took over the fourth quarter and overtime. So this defense as a whole, I think, is great. The Chiefs did all of this without Nick Bolton, Lucas Niang, and Travis Kelce. Like, Kelce, one of, if not the best tight end in football, was out, and the Chiefs didn't look like they were missing anything in this game. They played great as a whole. This defense, like, there's literally nothing to complain about, because the stats are like, oh, they gave up 130 yards rushing. No, the Steelers did all of their offense in garbage time. The Steelers did everything in garbage time. So the Steelers were not good in this game. The Chiefs the Big Ben looks like a tree. He needs to retire. He looked awful in this game. And just the Chiefs as a whole, they played great. There was some frustrating things when there was like 5 minutes left in this game, or it wasn't even 5 minutes. It was late in the game, and the Chiefs had the ball It was just before the 2-minute warning. They were running plays, and the Steelers, for some reason, were calling timeouts. That part did get a little bit frustrating. I'm like, you're down 26. Why are you calling timeouts before the 2-minute warning and all this crap? And so that was really frustrating. But other than that, I mean, what else is there to say? The Chiefs just bullied the Steelers, forced 3 turnovers, held them in check when the starters were in. The Steelers did everything that looks good in garbage time. The offense looked good. They spread the ball around. There's not one single guy on this that I would give the MVP. I would literally give Andy Reid the MVP for this game because of the way he was able to rally everybody around and get them coached up with Travis Kelce out. And I think this was an amazing, great win for the Chiefs. I think they're scary in the playoffs. Their defense is the best in football right now. Their offense is finally clicking, so I don't know what else people want to see from them because they're not broken anymore. And so the Chiefs just absolutely dominated the Steelers and are now AFC West champions 6 years in a row. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.